Growing up, what shaped you the most?
Coming from a very entrepreneurially driven family, my grandfather or my grandmother, they would tell us stories about all the hardships they had in developing businesses. I think in Batman how they say that you can fall as many times, but it's about how you get up from those falls.
You decided to move back to India. What was the thought process around it?
So took the plunge, came back to India, took a call that I definitely want to do more in India. I have no regret of making a move back, just taken a plunge.
What inspired you to start StayVista?
Travel and hospitality evokes an emotion. Everyone has a love towards it, right? Like, so we saw an opportunity where if you're able to build a brand that stands for a certain experience, there's a lot of value that gets created. There's a lot of trust that gets created.
The magical outcome for StayVista.
The magical outcome is when you become synonymous with a verb. So if that happens, that'll be magical.
What's your favorite StayVista property in India?
You're making me choose my favorite child.
What advice would you give regarding the move back to India?
From a macro level, right? Everything will always look great. But at a micro level, I feel for anyone who's thinking of solving a problem, you really need to get into the details.
Excited to have Amit Damani on the pod today. And Amit runs StayVista, which is the largest hospitality brand in luxury villas in India. During our conversation, we'll be covering a bunch of topics, mostly around his time in the US, his move back to India, what were the early days like, what was like building StayVista into a massive brand today, and his advice to folks who are considering moving back to India. And also we'll be talking about his health, and in particular we'll be talking about sleep. Amit, so good to have you.
Thanks Shiva.
Maybe Amit, a good starting point could be, we're really a byproduct of our environment. Growing up, what shaped you the most?
Just to give you a quick background on sort of the environment I've grown up in, it's been a big family. I've grown up in a joint family where it's been over 13 people staying in a 3-bedroom house. So everyone was in each other's face all the time. My neighbors were also my cousins, so we were just flowing from one house to another. So this entire floor was filled with over 30 people. And if cousins came over the weekend, over holidays, the house was overflowing again with like over 40, 50 people. So the concept always was that everything is shared. That's the principle on which we've grown up. Nothing is personal. Everything has to be taken care as a family, as a community. And that principle's always been there. And second, I would say in the family, coming from a very entrepreneurially driven family. Say my grandfather would have tried 7-8 different businesses, right? And anytime we would sit with my grandfather or my grandmother, they would tell us stories about all the hardships they had in developing businesses, how many businesses failed, and then something worked out. But the focus or the drive that they gave us was that you can try, you can fail, that's fine, but at some point you'll succeed. So it's just about, I think in Batman how they say that you can fall as many times, but it's about how you get up from those falls. So that's sort of been the environment in which I've grown up.
Got it. And Amit, I think what year did you move to US?
US was in 2006 when I'd moved there.
Got it.
Even US happened, I would say my brother was the first person who studied outside of India in our entire family. That was in 2002 he went, and I think that was, I don't think before he went any of us had an aspiration to go study abroad. But he was sort of that pioneer in the family, who ventured out, who was always clear that, hey, I want exposure globally, and I think then we just followed his footsteps. So it came easier for me being that second one.
Got it. And what was the experience like? What were the learnings during your time in the US? Whether it's in the college, I think you went to Northwestern. Or whether it was at work.
With respect to moving abroad, I think growing up, one idea that was always in my mind when I thought about work was working at the UN. That was sort of, at least that sort of teenage years dream that I want to join the UN and I want to see the world. right? The thought of UN was that you get to travel the world and you get to meet people from all over the world. So I kept pursuing opportunities even in school, which gave me chances to interact with people globally, to participate in model UNs. And I was very excited to pursue potentially a career in that at that moment. So I pursued economics and international studies at Northwestern. And even when I went there, actually, interestingly, my goal wasn't to be in US. My goal was to travel to as many countries as possible. Not only as a holiday, but actually to immerse myself and learn something over there. So fortunately, in US, you get study abroad programs. So I spent about 1 year out of my 4 years studying abroad in Egypt as well as South Africa. So that was very important to me, like culturally, meeting different people, understanding different cultures, learning more about the different perspectives people have. That actually led me to founding an organization also at Northwestern, which was called the International Student Association, because there wasn't really a platform and an ecosystem that brought people together from different backgrounds. And I was really passionate about that. So I literally put a cold email out to one of the directors of the university saying that, hey, this is the gap that I see. And this is how I would like to solve this. So literally, I think that was my first business plan without financial numbers that I put across. And the next day I got an email from that person saying, hey, this is great. If you'd like to do it, just come meet me. So again, like I think those instances or those moments, if I look back, like that gave me a lot of confidence to pursue entrepreneurship.
And you, later on, you decided to move back to India. What was the thought process around it, and how were the early days back in India? You know, were you like, you know, I'm sure you were probably, or not sure, maybe you were facing uncertainties. It's not difficult. I mean, it's not easy to move back, given you spent many years abroad. How was it like?
So I'd done a few internships during college. I think typically what would happen in college, and based on your environment around you, the jobs that people would take are in finance or in consulting. So I said, okay, great. If that's the path everyone sees as an ideal path to take after college, let me try to, pursue that and learn about it through internships. And the whole UN piece, as it is difficult to get into. I can still try to do things on the side to figure that out. So I did an internship with Goldman Sachs, and interestingly, this was in 2008. I think everyone knows what happened in 2008. There was a global financial crisis. And I was working at Goldman at that time period. And literally in my first week, half of the office was laid off. So surreal experience to be there and see what's happening and make you realize that things can change in no time overnight, at all. I think a lot of learnings through these internships, but what was clear to me was I don't think finance is my calling as a career path. I still wanted to get my hands dirty in some way, in an operational manner, and not be in an office, but actually go out and understand real problems and try to solve them. So what I pursued after graduating was socioeconomic development was important to me. Hence that angle of working with the UN or World Bank was there. But to understand it at a grassroots level, I realized that I needed to go on ground. And there was a program called Teach for India that had launched maybe a year before I joined. And it was modeled on the whole Teach for America idea of teachers can be leaders who make a long-term impact on society. They don't only influence as a teacher, but they can go on to get involved in government, get involved in education sector, you can get involved even as an entrepreneur. So that concept really appealed to me, that it's not just about going in a classroom and being a teacher, but you're developing leadership skills for the future. So took the plunge, came back to India, took a call that I definitely want to do more in India. I think this is, I need to learn more at a grassroots level. Spent 2 years as a Teach for India fellow, where I taught grade 3 and grade 4 students everything from English, Marathi, Hindi to history, geography, whatever the syllabus needed me to teach. And that was an amazing experience. I think I have no regrets of making a move back. I think I've had these moments in life where I've just taken a plunge. Without
I think risk is in
overthinking
your
it.
DNA. Like
Correct.
It just comes very natural to you.
Correct. So I think if there was clarity on, okay, this is why it's important to me.
Yeah.
If the why is clear,
Yeah.
then I don't overthink it. Then you just sort of go down that path.
Yeah.
So that's how Teach for India happened, and moving back to India happened.
Yeah.
And post sort of Teach for India, the idea was that I've got involved at a micro level.
Yeah.
But now, if you want to influence policies, or if you want to influence larger decisions, or sort of bigger decisions that take place, that typically takes place at a very sort of advisory manner, where it's a policy passed, or whether it's an organization that takes a certain strategy. And to do that, I wanted to get involved in consulting. And so I joined Dalberg Global Development Advisors. And the form of consulting they did was different from others because, again, it was very focused on socio-economic development. I spent over a couple of years working in China, projects in India as well as Afghanistan, where we were doing projects with, again, so this was my way of connecting with the World Bank. So I worked with World Bank, I worked with IFC, we worked with the Chinese government, the German government. So there were multiple different kinds of projects that I was able to work on. So went from a very micro level classroom to a macro level policy and strategy work that I had to do. That was sort of the thought process, at least in that very early phase of my career.
And that was what year?
This was 2010 to 2014.
2014. And what inspired you to start StayVista?
So, after having this micro and macro experience, the learnings that I got from there were always to take it forward towards entrepreneurship. So, I think as an entrepreneur, I keep telling everyone this, I feel my MBA learnings happen in that classroom as a class teacher because I was literally managing 35 students and having to guide them and direct them in achieving their goals. So whatever MBA lessons I had to apply, I was applying it on all those 35 students. And I literally tell my team that that's what I have to do now with a team of 350 people. You got to manage people, you got to understand their goals, how do you help them achieve their goals, and keep aligning them and directing them towards achieving a common goal. So I think a lot of learnings that came from there, and I think the shift towards entrepreneurship was clear. Why StayVista? Maybe I can tell you a little bit more. Three of us, Ankita, Pranav and I, started StayVista in 2015. And initially when we started, we used to meet for chai, coffee after work. And primarily we used to think about, okay, what should we do in terms of a sector, in terms of an opportunity where there's a gap that we could solve. And hospitality is something that we sort of move towards. I think all of us have our own reasons, but generally I feel travel and hospitality evokes an emotion. Everyone has a love towards it, right? Like if you think of your happiest moments in life, and if you think of your memories, you'll always have a moment related to travel. Right? It might be about getting married, or it might be about having a kid that day. But travel will always be one of those top 5 memories in your life. So there was clearly an emotion that it evokes in people, and it's exciting to do something in it. I think that was a very naive way of approaching it at that point. But the sort of other thing that we realized in hospitality was when it comes to the entire supply, it's extremely fragmented. It's extremely unorganized in India. And there's a lot of lack of trust in this segment. So we saw an opportunity where if you're able to control the experience, if you're able to build a brand that stands for a certain experience, there's a lot of value that gets created. There's a lot of trust that gets created. Now we could do this in multiple different segments. We could do this in hotels. Even in hotels, you have your higher end hotels and you have your affordable hotels. In your higher end hotels, that was the only space where there was some kind of organizing that had taken place. There were organized players. globally as well as domestically,
Yeah.
that had scaled up and had properties that they were running.
Yeah.
At the mid level as well, over the last 5 to 10 years, people had started organizing it. But the sort of bottom, which is a long tail, it was extremely unorganized. So that also started getting organized.
Yeah.
I think we were very clear that, as I was telling you, what evokes that emotion in us is that experience, right?
Yeah.
That's very important. So maybe that naivety also drove us towards like, okay, let's not solve something which is just a commodity or a standard experience,
Yeah.
but something which is a memorable experience.
Yeah.
And that drove us to thinking more about homes
Yeah.
and villas. When you look at homes and villas all over India,
Yeah.
there are some beautiful homes people have built. It's
Yeah.
been a labor of love, but that's been their aspiration that, if I made it in life, I'm going to have a villa where I'm going to go and relax and retire at.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is that people build these homes and they never use them. They use them for the first month, first year,
Yeah.
and then they get busy with their own lives.
Correct. It just goes
So
unused.
it goes unused. And the only people who are enjoying that home, frankly, is the staff that stays
Correct.
there,
Yeah.
because there's no one else there enjoying and having a great time over
Yeah.
there. Now there are these beautiful homes lying over there, and that life, that experience people could have over there is not being unlocked. Why? Because no one is taking care of the experience.
Yeah.
Now, Airbnb came up all over the world. But what did Airbnb do? Airbnb was just a platform that connected a host
Yeah.
to a guest.
Yeah.
Correct? So, there's nothing beyond communication and interaction that's taking place, which works well in a lot of markets. But in India, unfortunately, to build trust, you need to do a lot more than that.
Correct.
So, we realized that to build that trust, there's a lot, like we need to ensure that the entire experience is taken care of.
Yeah.
Only then a guest will feel like, yes, I'm going to have a great stay.
Correct.
The same thing applied on the host side.
Yeah.
Why was that property not unlocked? Was the host, the homeowner, never wanted to do this themselves.
Yeah.
They were waiting for someone to come in
Yeah.
and take care of their house.
Yeah.
Because this is not their job. This is
Yeah.
not their business. Their business is to run a large conglomerate, to run a CXO of
Yeah.
a business, or their lawyers or consultants.
Yeah.
So I think they're all doing that
Yeah.
on their day-to-day.
Yeah.
This home is something that they just want to ensure is taken care
Yeah.
of. So I think that unlocking happened
Yeah.
once we realized that on the supply side, the homeowner needs help. On the demand side, the guest really wants the experience taken
Yeah.
care of.
Yeah.
And a platform won't solve it,
Yeah.
but someone who takes care of end-to-end
End-to-end,
experience.
exactly, yeah.
So that's sort of been the reason why we're
Yeah.
doing what we do today.
Yeah.
And at a personal level, I would say that Ankita, for example, has been staying at villas for over 15 years, even
Yeah,
before
even
Airbnb
before,
existed.
yeah, wow.
And how would they book or how would they stay at these
Yeah.
villas, say in Lonavala? Was they used to call a local travel agent over there. That local travel agent would, send them some photos over email,
Yeah. Come a
which they
long
could
way.
look at. Correct, and they would trust that guy, so they would
Yeah.
go ahead and make that booking.
Yeah.
But they would trust that guy, but they wouldn't trust the entire property. So you
Yeah.
know what they would do? They would carry like pillows and blankets. Like if you remember how people would travel in trains before.
Yeah.
People weren't sure if they're going to get the entire bedding. So
yeah.
they would literally carry all of that
Yeah.
in case the place is not fully set
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
So I think that we could see users really want to go there, but the whole experience is broken.
Yeah.
And then I think from a supply point of view as well, as I spoke about, like
Yeah.
as a homeowner myself, we have
Yeah.
a family home in Lonavala for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
No one uses it.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful place that needs to get utilized.
Got it. And when you've been building StayVista for the last almost 8-9 years now.
Yes, over 9 years.
And Amit, along the way, and there were things that were not in your control. For example, pandemic happened, bunch of other things. You were able to navigate through these difficult times. What was that turning point while building StayVista that really give you and the entire team a lot of confidence that we are in it now, we got it?
Yeah, I think there were multiple moments like these where there were these learnings. I would say when we started off doing this, how did we start is, a reference of ours told us that, hey, we have this home in Lonavala, why don't you take care of it? we dabbled on a lot of other things before this.
Yeah.
We tried working with service apartments because we wanted to focus on alternative accommodation. But this segment came through his journey of figuring out what do we really care about. When a family owner told us, hey, can you take care of our home? Like we don't use it. We really want to give it out to guests so that it takes care of itself. We jumped on it. And we wanted to learn through that process. Initially, we used to get maybe 4 bookings a month. So literally someone would go on a Saturday and come back on a Sunday. They were just going for a short, quick getaway. And second, what we saw was demand suddenly started increasing for 2 reasons. The first was the guests who stayed with us and had a good experience because we were taking care of it would refer a lot of other people and would come back to us to stay somewhere else as well. The second was slowly, steadily, people's stays also kept increasing. So they weren't just staying for 1 night. They started staying for 2 nights. So we realized that 1, there's a high repeat and referral in this business. Second, in terms of the revenue that can be generated, it can sustain not only the property, but also us. And I think that was that initial moment of, oh, this is very interesting. Like, we can grow this. And there is customer retention taking place. There's if guests have a great experience, they talk about it everywhere. It just helps in that manner. So we started scaling that, say, to all key destinations in and around Mumbai. So people would typically go to Lonavala, Alibag, Karjat, etc. So we started expanding our curated set of properties in those locations. Then we started expanding it to Goa. So I think once we expanded to Goa, we saw that people from all over India are coming to stay at villas. I think the villa capital of India is Goa. It's the holiday capital of India as well. And I think the next moment there was, it's not just the Mumbai phenomenon of people wanting to drive within 2 hours to quick getaways, but people all over India prefer staying at villas when it comes to a group. So I think that was the second moment. People start thinking about group getaways. And over 50% of Indians travel in groups. I think we're just wired to spend time with our friends and families. There's this whole community feeling is very important in our own cultural upbringing. So we started seeing that in Goa as well. So as soon as a group is above, say, 4 people, they start thinking about staying at a villa over a hotel because they want the common spaces where they can spend time together. They want that living room where they'll all hang out together. They want a private pool. They want a private lawn. So privacy, exclusivity becomes even more important as a group because it just is more conducive for better experiences and discussions and having those late night chats that you will reminisce and remember from earlier. Exactly. So I think that was sort of that second moment for us of like, oh yeah, group travel is like all over India. People really travel in this manner and they will keep looking out for these options. So beyond Bombay and Goa, then we started looking at all our key metro destinations where people travel to. So it was from Delhi, people will typically travel 5 to 8 hours. So they'll go to Mussoorie, they'll go to Kasauli. Similarly in South, from Bangalore, people will go to Ooty, Coorg. So that expansion plan happened post these 2 experiences. I think before we come to a third moment of like, wow, this makes sense, I would say there was a pandemic that struck and pretty much everything came to a standstill. So that was more of a moment of like, will we survive? We didn't know because for 6 months everything was shut down. Literally, we were just waiting when things will reopen and we had no idea what will happen at that moment. So 6 months of zero business but when things turned around, it was literally like floodgates opening. We realized that people really wanted to get away. They were tired of being at their homes and they were rushing to every possible place they could go to. They were driving down because they wanted to be in a more, contained environment of travel. They wanted to be in villas because they wanted to be again more private than share spaces. So there was a complete change in the way that we saw demand. What I was telling you earlier was 4 to 6 nights that would happen. That went up to about 13 to 15 nights per month in a villa.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't any longer just weekends, but
Yeah.
people were staying there over weekdays as well.
Even for work and
Precisely,
yeah.
working from anywhere,
Yeah.
living from anywhere.
Yeah.
So that I think was that third moment of when things reopened.
Yeah.
There was organically more awareness for this segment. We didn't have to do anything, and people were just reaching out to us to stay at villas.
Yeah.
So I think that third moment gave us a realization that now people have learnt about getaways to villas. They've realized when it comes to group travel, villas is the best and ideal option.
Yeah.
And there's been sort of that uptick in terms of demand as well.
Got it. And Amit, where are we today? I think you mentioned, there's about, I think you're managing over 800 villas. What's the magical outcome you hold for StayVista in the years to come?
Yeah. I think for most brands, right,
Yeah.
as a consumer brand, the magical outcome is when you become synonymous with a verb.
Yeah. Correct.
So if that happens, that'll be magical.
Yeah.
Or a noun.
Yeah.
So if people are thinking about a getaway, they just say, let's just go to a
Let's
Vista.
stay Vista.
Correct, let's stay Vista. So
Yeah.
I think that has to be the goal.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're getting there.
Yeah.
I think we want that association of getaways and especially group getaways to villas. Like when people think of villas, they should think about Vista. If we get there, I'm sure we've done something well.
Yeah. No, I mean, all my friends around me, they've been raving about StayVista, and it is, I think it's almost there. It's right
Thanks.
there, and talking about tourism and hospitality in general in India, Amit, kind of like explain us in a simple language, how has travel hospitality evolved in India over the years, and also tell us what's something that, a trend that surprises you the most in terms of traveling or spending.
Yeah, great question. At least our understanding of how travel and hospitality has evolved is that travel has changed from, sort of big standardized packages to personalized experiences.
Yeah.
So if you think about how people would travel not only in India or abroad, it would typically be with like large travel companies which are taking you in buses of 50, 60, 100 people on a tour which is very clearly defined, and you'll stop at different locations and spots and you have to follow that itinerary. Right? That was the standard way in which you travel not only in India but also abroad. All our educational trips in school were that. Like we start here, we do this, and you went back here. Versus today, especially because information is so easily available online, everyone loves being a travel planner.
Yeah.
I've seen my wife, right? Like if there's anything that makes her happier than my kid would be planning a holiday, right? She would love to like build an itinerary for herself and also then share it with everyone else, because there's just so much research and work that's gone into it.
Yeah.
And then it's tailored to like your own preferences for what you want to see, what you want to eat. So I think that's been the biggest change.
Yeah.
People aren't looking to tick off, I saw this statue or structure somewhere, to like, hey, this is what I want to experience. I want to see the sunrise by the ocean without having anyone else around me. Or I want to do a certain experience and activity with my spouse or my kids. I think that's been the biggest change. People are really think about what matters to them than anyone else. And then lastly, I would say the biggest change we have seen is that people really celebrate occasions in India. And that's growing with more sort of rising disposable income. So whether it's someone's birthday, whether it's an anniversary, whether it's a wedding, right? Big fat Indian wedding. Like I think it's the same is happening with like birthdays and anniversaries. It's a big fat celebration. Like your milestones, whether it's your 30th, your 40th, your 50th, people really go all out in celebrating those. Now, they could go all out in the manner of doing it for a large group, or they'll do it for a small group but make it extremely, extremely personalized and intimate. And they'll spend a lot of money on that. But I think those moments are something that people really want to put in a lot of effort on.
I was I was in Varanasi a few months back, and I stayed at so there are two Taj hotels. The second one, it's very pricey. I was not staying there, but I had access to that property, and I went there, and one of the guys over there in the staff, he was showing me around, and I asked him, like, what's something differently you've seen recently. And he said, sir, earlier 80% of our business was dependent on foreigners, and now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
80 Indians and 20 foreigners. So that shows, how people are actually spending in experiences.
Yeah.
I joke around with my friends that could be this or the next for sure is the last generation. I think this is the last generation where we won't be saving much for our kids. We'll be just spending, and we'll ensure that they get the education, but not saving properties or money or whatever for them. With this, Amit, what's your favorite StayVista property in India?
You're making me choose my favorite child. I don't know if I can do that, but
should I make your life easier?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, top two.
I think you'll always be most attached to your initial tie-ups that you do.
Yeah.
So I think for me, an initial tie-up that I had done. So when we were expanding in North, I pretty much traveled all around North in buses. We stayed at really budget places until a homeowner would allow us to tie up with them, right? So we were just like going all over the place, trying to find some beautiful places that we could give out to guests.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in Manali, and we found this beautiful local Katguni style home that a homeowner had built in Manali, and we literally called him on his phone. He wasn't there. He lived in Chandigarh.
Yeah.
And I was walking on Mall Road trying to tell him what we do.
Yeah.
And I don't know what made him trust us, but he agreed, and literally in 30 minutes over that call, we had our first property in Manali or in North as well. So I think those moments and those properties will always be really close to my heart.
Yeah. Love it. Amit, you gotta. I mean, to me, it sounds such a cool business. It is. You get to travel so much, and really, you're immersing yourself into the culture. Given you're in 20, 25 cities around that. What's your typical day like, or like a week? Like how? Yeah.
It's evolved. As I was telling you, I think at that early stage, we were all over the place.
Yeah.
We were taking overnight buses, trains. Whatever possible to save on our overnight stays, and ensuring that we're going door to door. We literally went to people's homes. If we saw a new place getting built, just knocked on the door and asked would you be interested in giving it out to StayVista? So it's been a journey. So a lot of sort of groundwork to now I think a lot more time goes in just team building. And I think there's one of our friends told us this, as a leader, now more and more our focus goes on three things. It's giving direction to our team. It's giving them resources and giving them velocity. So it's just something that stuck with me. Like, how do you keep trying to think of those three things and do more around it?
Got it. Amit, you've come back and you've built India's largest, hospitality brand in villas. And since I think your brother Aditya, the other day, he posted on LinkedIn, he seemed to be very, very optimistic about India. And he had difficult time when he had moved to India. And I think he's doing great in his own venture. Folks thinking about, moving back to India, and the sentiment is only increasing day by day, week by week. What advice would you give, regarding the move back to India, and also the opportunities that India has?
One, definitely there are enough opportunities out there. I don't think there's any doubt or questions on that. I think from a macro level, right? Everything will always look great. India's growing.
Yeah.
India will continue to grow.
Yeah.
There are so many opportunities of growth and new businesses to be formed.
Yeah.
So I don't think there are any questions, concerns on that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like getting into the details is very important. So at a micro level,
Yeah.
I feel for anyone who's thinking of solving a problem, like macro is great, but you really need to get into the details of whatever you might want to do.
Yeah.
So I think my only advice to anyone who would want to start up,
Yeah.
and especially if they're not in India and thinking of moving back,
Yeah.
is immersing themselves in whichever environment helps them understand the nitty-gritty of the business they would want to build. That's the most critical thing.
Yeah.
And that's where the complexities of India come out, right?
Yeah.
Like just regulatory challenges that might come up, your local political issues that might come up, just your sort of team building in terms of there are so many different things that'll come up basis what you want to do and what you want to build.
Yeah.
So I think all of that you'll only learn if you just get down and dirty in the business.
Yeah. And if if you can reflect back in hindsight, Amit, was there skill or experience that you learned in US and that has really helped you in India while building StayVista?
Yeah, I think the first thing would be just from an education system point of view, right? I struggled in my first year or so in college.
Yeah.
Primarily because we were so used to a rote learning system in India.
Yeah.
There are advantages of that, right? Like, but at the same time, there are certain limitations, as every system would have. And I think the Indian system that I was exposed to didn't really push me to critically think on certain things. It didn't really push me to put my opinion on something I read, right? It was more about like picking up a paragraph and picking up certain sentences and writing it in your answer. So that was a big shift when I went to college and we had to like read about philosophers and give our opinion on what they are trying to say. And I had zero ideas that what like I have an opinion on this or not. So I think that was a big shift for me. But that really helped me in the long term in building that muscle of critically thinking and analyzing anything. I also think from a sort of cultural point of view of working with people from different backgrounds. That makes you more empathetic as well as patient in how you deal with people. I've seen how earlier generations worked in business environments, right? Like the Lala mentality, which is typically spoken about in the North, is very different from working in a corporate or MNC environment. And I think I built that skill set not only because of working at a corporate, but just being in an environment where the culture of pushing each other is more communicative than dismissive or pushy.
Yeah. No, it's a good point that you picked up. I think we were discussing about this. I've had almost 40 folks who have gone on and built massive tech companies, and I get curious why that's happening. The common thread here that I've learned, Amit, is so basically you're living in a bubble, good or bad, and when you get out of that bubble, which is a different place, you get exposed to people from different worldviews and different cultures. And when you have a different worldview altogether, you're just able to build a better culture while building the company. That's been my biggest learning here. And switching gears here, Amit, what's been making you smile lately, whether it's professionally or personally?
Personally, definitely my 14-month-old baby. She's definitely brought a lot more joy in our lives. So that definitely keeps me smiling. But interestingly, I'm always someone who's told that why are you smiling so much? So it comes naturally to me. So whatever the situation might be, I can smile through it. So I think, just wanted to let you know that as well.
Is that it? Just you said it's just natural to you, or you've developed this?
No, I think maybe again like that environment you've grown up in, right? So you might fail, but like it's fine. You just pick up yourself and like get started with the next piece. So I think that's sort of been the mentality.
And given Amit, let's say you're hosting three guests,
Yeah.
dead or alive, at StayVista property, and you can pick anyone you want. Who would those three guests be, and why?
Wow, interesting. Okay, so three people. I would pick three Indians.
Yeah.
From different backgrounds. I think India sort of runs on politics, cricket, and Bollywood.
Yeah.
So I would pick people from these three backgrounds.
Yeah.
And would love to hear them talk to each other. So maybe politics, someone historical like Jawaharlal Nehru. Bollywood, Shah Rukh Khan, and cricket, Dhoni. I think I would bring these three people together.
Yeah.
And would love to have a chat with them.
Yeah.
About India and its past as well as its future.
As in future, and would you tell us what property that would be?
Maybe at my house in Lonavala.
Good one. He tricked us. And Amit, we were discussing about the health. And you said for you the most important thing, and I to give context, Amit doesn't drink coffee, and I asked him how do you maintain the energy level high throughout the day? He said his sleep. So maybe talk us through what's your relationship been with health and about your sleep. How are you sleeping?
Yeah. So I think with health, as everyone would typically be sharing, it's your sleep, it's your diet and your exercise, right? And for me, out of those three, sleep is the easiest because I can sleep anywhere. You give me a 1 hour gap, I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
And so I think from a sleep point of view, more important than taking those gaps or naps, it's the sort of night sort of stretch that's important to me. So getting that 7-8 hours of sleep is really critical.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've seen I'm not able to function as well.
Yeah.
When it comes to exercise, always been into sports. So whether it's playing sports or watching sports, it's something I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
So with respect to playing, I'd actually stopped playing football, say for 6-7 years, but picked it up again this year. Started playing pickleball over tennis.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How's pickleball?
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I think just an easy sport to pick up, and I also think it's easy to play with people from with different skill sets.
Yeah.
So it just levels the field. Versus I think you need a lot more skill in tennis. So this was very easy for people to get into it and play with different people with different skill sets. So that's been happening. So I'm really happy that sports has started again. That had stopped for me. Whereas gym had increased. So just weight training is something I've been doing 5 times a week. That also routine has fallen place over the last couple of years. I feel in the first 5 years of entrepreneurship, I had started slacking. But the last couple of years, I've really started prioritizing it. My day doesn't start without some form of exercise now. And I think again, the energy piece, one is sleep, the other is starting your day with some form of exercise. I think that really helps me.
That really helps you.
My struggle is still with diet. And again, product of environment, maybe just in my house, in a Marwadi family, there are always sweets around. There are always fried snacks around. And when I see them, I have an habit of just snacking or taking a bite. And I think that habit is still something that I am trying to improve at. And
do you have a plan for it?
The only plan is don't keep it around you. So I think atomic habits, so they make it tougher for you to build that habit. So to break it, you got to make it tough to access it. So just try and do that.
A life hack you just can't live without.
A life hack I can't live without. A calendar. I can't live without a calendar. Everything is in my calendar now. If it's not, I forget about it. So it's really got me organized, which I wonder why I didn't do this better 3 to 4 years ago.
And Amit, how do you we live in a world of mimetic desire, right? And I think it's natural also. That's how people are wired. Either we want something that we don't have, or we'll go after something that's, that other people are doing, or that's something sexy. How do you set and control your own ambitions in life?
Great question. And I think that's a constant struggle.
Yeah.
One thing that I keep thinking or remembering is that the toughest decisions to take are the ones that you say no to. So you have to say no more often than yes.
Yeah.
So even if you have those ambitions, how do you say no, or how do you say not yet? I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And I don't have a clear answer of saying how do you suppress those ambitions,
Yeah.
other than the fact, or other than prioritizing what you feel is the need of the hour. So I think it's sort of ruthless prioritization that, hey, this needs to be done now, we can think about that later.
Yeah.
So I think you can keep dreaming about a lot of things or building ambitions for a lot of things. But at the end of the day, today what needs to be done is really critical.
Yeah.
So focusing on that today and keep building that out, and what's important for that kind of, if you keep having that mindset, then automatically you'll start prioritizing and owning what needs to be done.
Yeah. Have you heard of this writer called Derek Sivers?
I haven't.
Amazing writer. He thinks outside the box. He's written few books, How to Live, My Music. Now he's written another book where he talks about that everything out there, unless it's a fact, is not true. And he says people have beliefs. Use that belief until it's useful. And later on you can drop it. But he wrote a very interesting blog around where he said possible futures, where his point was like, you're going to live, let's say 70, 80 years. So there are many years. Let's say you're in your 40s or 30s. What one can do is you can have a folder of possible futures where you can have a line of, okay, this is what I want to do, this. At least it doesn't give you anxiety. You can always come back. Once you finish a project, then you go there. Or during your years, you can always put in notes or anything in that folder under that particular project that you want to pursue. And Amit, what's the kindest thing someone has done to you?
So many things. I'm trying to remember which ones. I think at an organization level first, maybe for StayVista, especially during that COVID time period, couple of things I would say. One was our investor backing us 1 week before COVID led to a complete global shutdown, right? So I think that was a moment of survival. And I would say that's a very kind thing of our investors to do at that point, when they would have seen like things are shutting down in other parts of the world. And similarly with our homeowners as well, who were absolutely fine having their money sitting with us rather than asking us to pay them whatever money that we would have collected. So I think just those moments of kindness where they allowed us to just survive and let our team survive through that time period was very kind. At a personal level, I feel there have been many. I'm not able to recollect a specific one.
One last one. Man, you seem to be very zen, very relaxed. What's behind it?
Maybe you could help me understand that, or others could help me understand that. But it's the environment you've grown up in. We've touched upon this multiple times today. But just that environment of, I would say both. Like we spoke a lot about, like if you fail, it's fine. But also when you succeed, it's not like you've achieved something which is extraordinary. I think that's generally been the environment at home as well. Like you win some days, you lose some days.
Yeah.
But like it's more about being consistent. That's just been sort of the mentality or the thought. Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much for doing it, Amit.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank
for
you
you
so
coming
much.
and really sharing, your experiences and, company building and yeah, I'm excited for you and StayVista.
Thank you so much. Next time we'll do this at StayVista.